Hello, guys. Welcome to episode number 30 of the Third Man Cricket Podcast. Uh, Good to reach the 30 figure, but of course, the episode this is largely themed about is about how Virat Kohli gave up his Test captaincy. We wanted to delve more into the backdrop of it because knowing or understanding Virat, the leader, the born leader, as they pretty much point him to be as. So it's not necessarily something that is just a field provoked decision of losing to South Africa in a Test series, but it's a lot more is what I personally feel, and I think Pawan Bhai also agrees to me. So what we'll be aiming to do in this very episode is largely to understand the growth of Virat Kohli back, right from 2014 Adelaide, and then subsequently later to the players that he's groomed and the bowling supremacy, the pace bowling supremacy that we've achieved under him. From seventh place back in 2014 to consistently being the top Test team, playing the World Test Championship final and whatnot. So we've seen a lot of ups in his career as a Test captain. A terrific, immaculate batsman that we've seen as a captain again, but of course there are good amount of lows that also that he's seen on the field, off the field, and whatnot. So we will try to dig deeper into Virat Kohli, the person, Virat Kohli, the leader, and most importantly, also talk a lot about what's the future for India, because like how Ravi Ashwin has rightly pointed out, he's left behind a legacy and a big headache to find a replacement, who should largely aim to find, kind of match his ability as the captain, as a leader, as a pure, uh, you know, flag bearer or torch bearer of Test cricket as well. So, as I kind of give this introduction, also, I mean, I'm a bit emotional with respect to, not necessarily seeing Virat the captain again. So I think I pretty much felt the same when MS Dhoni gave up his captaincy or the limited overs captaincy in 2016 after the tour, after the New Zealand tour of India, and we were lucky to witness the last game of his in Vizag, and I kind of I still keep talking to about it with some amount of pride, with some amount of emotion. And today, I think when we talk about Virat Kohli, the leader as well, I think there's a lot of emotion flowing in from a lot of in fact cricket fans across the globe for that matter. So to start with, Pawan Bhaiya, how did you react to this news? And it was a shocker for sure. And what are your views on it?
Yes, Ravi, very aptly put. And I remember waking up that morning a couple of days ago and being a bit shocked. Although I knew that once he gave up the T20 captaincy, that he will most probably not remain the one-day captain, as selectors might be veering towards only one captain for both the white ball formats. But I never had imagined that Virat Kohli would not be the Test captain at least until the time that he wants to be, and he's only 33 and definitely got 5 to 6 more years of top flight cricket left in him, considering his fitness standards and the way he looks after himself. But like you mentioned, it was more events off the field that had transpired and played a huge role in this decision of his of giving up the Test captaincy, and it was a sad day, especially for me as a Test cricket fan, and secondly as an Indian cricket fan, more so for a test as a Test cricket fan because not long ago the great Ian Chappell mentioned that if the players of the world need Test cricket to survive, then they need to have Virat Kohli as their spokesperson, and so true in every sense, a true flag bearer and the Pied Piper of Test cricket in this day and age when all the cricketers around the globe are getting consumed with multiple T20 leagues, one-day tournaments, and whatnot, trying to make quick bucks by playing the shortest format of the game. But here was a guy who wanted to play the game of Test cricket with utmost passion, put that format of the game right up on the priority levels of world cricket, and made sure that the same kind of passion and energy flowed through the other 10 men that were playing along with him for India on that cricket field. and in no uncertain terms mentioned that Test cricket was everything to him, and that he, in a sense, became a role model for the next generation of cricketers who might get caught up in, you know, securing a contract in the IPL as a main priority rather than playing Test cricket for India. And I hope that he has inspired the next generation to wear that baggy blue cap for India and think of that being the ultimate dream and performing in those white flannels if they want to be remembered as cricketers, after they have hung up their boots. So, like I mentioned, he gave the T20 captaincy up on his own and sacked as the one-day captain. And when we were doing the preview of the Test series, we mentioned that um, the axe could fall on him if he did not perform as a player and India lost the series. And unfortunately, that is what happened. He might have preempted that the board might, uh, sack him as a test keeper as well, and maybe he might not be in a good mental space because of what all was happening. But it is India's loss and nobody else's because I think he definitely had 3 to 4 more years of test captaincy left in him, and I so much wanted him to become the most successful test keeper of all time. And had he continued, he could have easily beaten Graham Smith's record of 53 test wins as he had already secured 40 wins. And, he, having said that, he still is one of the greatest test match captains that the world has seen, let alone India. He's fourth highest on the list of most successful test captains, only behind the likes of Graham Smith, Ricky Ponting, and Steve Waugh. He's got Clive Lloyd after him, so he's an esteemed company. And forever, he'll be remembered as the greatest test captain that India has ever seen. And it will be a very, very, uh, you know, hard thing for us to see him not there as the captain because we all know the kind of energy and passion he brought out on the field. Every time a wicket fell as well, and that rubbed off on the side. Um, but the kind of legacy that he leaves will be uh, enriching for Indian cricket and world cricket. And like we will discuss now, what kind of legacy that he left over as well. But all in all, a fantastic career as captain to King Kohli, right from the time he played that test in Adelaide in 2014 and uh, right up till the time that he hung up his boots as the captain in the Cape Town test. It's concluded recently a golden era in the history of test cricket as far as India is concerned, and probably their best era of test cricket up until now.
So very well put. Like a leader who's constantly so good with the numbers as well. I mean, we often talk about leaders who've not necessarily done enough with the batting, mainly because they're not necessarily focused enough, or because Test cricket requires the captain to be on his toes always. And there are a lot of uh, theories around the same. But having said that, his ability to score across the globe after 2014 English tour, how he's failed miserably to becoming the highest run getter in the 2018 tour. Uh, a young 26-year-old, the way he's faced in 2014, or even as a youngster who's shown that infamous middle finger in 2011 while being battered on the field and off the field. These all define what Virat Kohli is, right? Is that villain that the world loves to hate. But at the same time, to be honest, we all were also pretty not very happy with his cocky attitude to start with back in 2011. I was a 16, 17-year-old, and I wasn't particularly excited because I grew up watching the likes of Sehwag, Lakshman, Sehwag, Lakshman, Dravid, Sachin, who are so Dravid, all of these are so-called gentlemen, and now even beat MS Dhoni, and we have a new young guy who's won a Cricket World Cup as an under 19 youngster. And again, he's a very arrogant, cocky fellow, as they call him out. But the 2014 tour under him, I vividly remember the press conference after 2014 Adelaide Test. India were well poised. Murli Vijay was batting well. Of course, Virat looked stable. We were all looking good to win it, we chase it. Probably the India of 2000s or 90s would have just gone for the draw, but this guy had no, regrets out there. He said, if we really need to necessarily win overseas, the right approach was to go for it. Of course, our batsmen screwed it up, not necessarily did good enough. But having said that, the intent is something that he necessarily never complained about it. So it's lovely to know. I mean, it's lovely to discover the captain Kohli, and then subsequently the immaculate rise of Indian cricket, and then how Shami, Bumrah, and then the resurgence of Ishant Sharma as well, and Umesh Yadav as well. So I was recently looking at one statistic wherein there are 3 to 4 bowlers under Virat who have more than 100 test wickets. That is Shami, Ishant, Bumrah, and Umesh. All four of them have 100 test wickets under Virat Kohli. So Siraj is following up as well. I mean, he's someone who's made his debut under him, and he's been rising ranks too. So uh, these are like pace bowling supremacy is something that India has always lacked, but the ability to travel abroad, go overseas, be it England, Australia, South Africa, and the ability to get those 20 wickets, especially by the Pacers, is something that has to be commendably attributed to Virat Kohli, the captain. The second theme, probably while we are talking about his 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 legacy, right? The second, definitely, the what needs to also be talked about is the fitness regime. How even the pace bowlers were so-called not really troubled on the field under the erstwhile captains, but now we have few pace bowlers who are amazing fielders as well. The fitness regimes are closely looked at, irrespective of a so-called senior player or a junior player, right? There are certain amount of fitness regimes that Virat has definitely gotten it, and as kind of uh, incorporated into the team, so to speak. So uh, this was like one I thought I should be talking about it. Uh, Coming to, of course, like how Poundboy also pointed out, was it a pure on-field call? Was this so? I personally don't think so. There were a lot of rumors. Again, if you read Twitter, right, it's everyone writing anything, and you just don't know what to consume, what to digest, and whatnot. In fact, Virat's test, uh, captaincy piece is something that was not reported by anyone. It came out all of a sudden, probably because there were a lot of talks about. One rumor that was quite famous was the fact that after the outrage on the field with respect to Supersport broadcasting, and the third umpire decision of overturning that Dean Algar's uh, dismissal. Apparently, there were some big wigs of the BCCI who spoke to Virat saying, "No, this is not the picture that we want to paint." So again, we necessarily don't know what's the meat of this very news. Having said that, let's all face it that Virat is a very proud guy, and a very egoistic person too. In a very positive sense sometimes, and not necessarily positive the other way around. So if we actually, I was trying to talk about this to a few of my other friends as well. If you read the statement from Virat, he always talks about how he only can give 120%, and in a situation is not able to give 120%, he'll not be continuing, and that is what necessarily is going to happen, is what he kind of pointed out. So my point is, why is he not being, why is he not in a situation to give 120%, even for the sake of Test cricket, right? I mean, so limited overs, okay, we have a definite roadmap ahead. No major regrets ahead with 2023 World Cup, with 2022 World T20, 2024 World T20 in US and West Indies, and then again the Champions Trophy in 2025. Okay, we're talking about ICC tournaments and how the dearth of silverware is something that has been troubling India all the while. But with Test cricket, right? Of course, point is, he's had a deputy for a long time who's elder to him by a year. Okay. Uh, now, with no specific succession planning in place. While the call was definitely abrupt, right? What necessarily also has to be spoken about is the abrupt statement given of how he's not going to continue, and then how the 100th test he won't be continuing to captain. And we need to kind of talk more about it, is what I felt. Okay, so can you throw some more light on this, Convoy, with respect to if there was a role played by the BCCI president, and then the probably the coach as well, and how he had to talk. He gave Bumrah gave a statement yesterday that we all knew for a fact that he's going to retire. It wasn't as abrupt as all you feel, and emulating MS Dhoni's retirement back in with MCG at that MCG test as well. So let's kind of delve more into it. What do you say? And of course, talk more about what next is some important key question that we need to talk about this as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Ravi. And there were news reports that after the end of the Cape Town test, he had a one-to-one chat for more than an hour with Rahul Dravid, and I think that was the same thing that he might have been discussing with the coach. And there were also reports that even if India had won the series, he would have hung up his boots as the Test captain. And I think it got a bit to him, all these pressures of the field and also captaining India in all the three formats um, for close to 7 years is not easy. You start developing a lot of gray hair, and that is what happened with him as well. And I think if the off the field antics did not happen, then we would have seen him captain India across all the formats for a couple of years more, at least up until the 2023 World Cup. And I think it's a personality and ego clash as well. To be fair enough, Virat Kohli is that sort of a person who likes absolute power or no power at all. The position of Indian cricket captain is a very powerful one, and there have been good number of captains in the past who have wielded good power with the support of the board presidents as well. And to be fair to Virat Kohli, he had the power up to a certain extreme levels, more than the earlier Indian captains as well, because there was nobody in the BCCI to have checks and balances in place. To be fair to the other party as well, we had the CEO, administrators, and Virat Kohli pretty much had his way most of the time. But he walked the talk and produced the results for the Indian cricket team, which was more admirable. And then when the new board came into the picture and Messrs. Ganguly and Shah were there to have those sort of checks and balances, and I think him being questioned and him being held accountable from the board, as it is the norm with every Indian captain, might not have been liked by him and threw him out of his comfort zone, and that might have been the reason for all the off-field altercations. The parties trying to make it clear that they are the one who are speaking the truth. All these must have contributed to his decision making, and mentally he would not have been in that good space. And like you mentioned, if he is not mentally right up there and giving his more than 100% for team, then he's always mentioned that the day he feels like that about his cricket, he's going to hang up his boots and retire altogether from the game as well. So let's hope that we get to enjoy Virat Kohli, the player, again for the next 5 or 6 years, because he's definitely got that much time in him. And like you mentioned, he was the captain who risked losing at the cost of winning. I mean, out of the 68 test matches that he has captained, he has won 40 and lost 17. So that means a staggering 57 matches out of the 68 produced results, and only 11 were drawn. And out of those 11, more than half were affected by weather, and that's the reason that they were drawn. So close to 84% of the matches in which he was captain in Test cricket produced results. And he always looked to draw the game as the last resort. And I think it was that attitude that he showed in that Adelaide game might have contemplated the great MS Dhoni to think that it was time to pass the baton on to Virat Kohli, because the kind of vision and the attitude and the energy that he had was getting rubbed on to the team members, and that must have, you know, um, had a thought in his mind that it was a time to have Virat Kohli as the Test captain, and that might have been the reason he abruptly gave up the captaincy at the end of that Boxing Day Test match in 2014-15. And like you mentioned, playing five frontline bowlers, wanting to make sure that we win consistently in China countries. Not only in China countries, we played two series in West Indies, won those quite easily. We won in Sri Lanka twice. 1993 was the last time we beat Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka, and after that, many great Indian teams went over there and did not win. We won convincingly in 2015 and 2017. And, you know, the twin victories in Australia. We are almost on the verge of winning a series in England again. Probably holding the longest lead in the history of the game for more than a year. Winning test matches in South Africa as well. And before this, we were happy when India won the test match, in a series in overseas conditions. We would say, yes, we have won the test match and we are competing. But he made it the norm. And if we were losing a test match or test series overseas, then we were terming that to be a big disappointment. So that is the difference that he brought, along with Ravi Shastri, Bharat Arun, R. Sridhar, and Sanjay Bangar, and later Vikram Rathore. And like you mentioned, the great pace bowling revolution. He is a man who liked pace on the ball and encouraged the bowlers to bowl fast. Jasprit Bumrah, Shami, like you mentioned, resurgence of Ishant Sharma, then Umesh Yadav, Siraj Thakur, Shardul Thakur, Varun Aaron, and all these guys who came with a bit of pace was always backed by him. And he also made sure that he handled the spinners very well in home conditions. He did not lose a home series while he was the captain. So, all in all, a fantastic journey as a captain. And he has left very big boots to fill in. And I think our next point of discussion that we can have is who now after Virat Kohli. And just before we move on to that, I'm definitely sure we're going to see more productive batsmanship from Virat Kohli in the Test game. Something similar to Saurav Ganguly. He left the captaincy or was sacked as the captain in 2005. He came back late in 2006 on that South African tour, and until he retired at the end of the Australia series in 2008. For those 2 years, Ganguly has had his most prolific run scoring years in his Test career in the last couple of years. So who knows? Um, just 2700 is not good enough as far as I'm concerned for a player of Virat Kohli's caliber. He can easily score close to 40 or more than 40 Test hundreds in the next 5 or 6 years. And knowing his fitness levels, he's definitely going to keep them up and make sure that he goes on up until that time. So again, a great legacy to leave behind, and I'm sure he'll help the next captain, whoever comes in, by providing vital inputs and hope Indian cricket, goes on from strength to strength. Every captain is different in their own way. Virat Kohli likes being aggressive, and that rubs onto his teammates. Let's see who comes in after him. And that's a good point to veer our discussion towards as to what are the options that we have on table, and what personally would you like, as far as succession planning in the Test captaincy is concerned, Ravi?
Well, so even I was pointing out for a fact that, BCCI in its whole succession planning, at least from the last 1 year or 2 years, right? Of course, they were not like really spot on because he had a deputy who was pretty much a year elder to him in Rahane to start with. And then, of course, once Rahane was sacked as the captain, Pujara was sacked as the vice captain. Rohit Sharma was made, who's again a year elder to him, a couple of years probably almost. So see, point being, okay, now in hindsight we can talk about what could have happened, but it's an indication of how there has been no communication between Virat and BCCI to start with respect to how or where it will actually end. Okay, there have been a lot of events that have transpired which probably provoked Virat to take this decision sooner than later. Having said that, Ravi Ashwin rightly pointed out that it's truly a headache. It's, that where he has left it at. Because when MS resigned as a test captain, or in fact, retired as a test player, we knew for a fact that, okay, we have an able leader for sure, a young 26-year-old. in Virat Kohli, who's done amazingly well with the bat and who's shown amazing spirit on the field as a captain too. But today, uh, as we speak, right, the alternative that we are looking at is, say, when you start off with an Rohit Sharma, he's freaking 35 already, and barring the England test, right? We were not necessarily looking at any other key important tests to start with. So the whole metal of his whole test captaincy will be probably tested in, once he's like 35, 36. And again, what are we doing is a question there. Rahane is out of picture. I was joking with my few friends that, he should be made a non-playing captain, like in Davis Cup. He should be just sitting probably on a chair in the dressing room and just make those changes, because his spot in the batting 11 is just not as short. Third option is KL Rahul. With KL Rahul, right? I mean, it's a roller coaster to start with, mainly because in England, Rohit Sharma and Mayank Agarwal was supposed to start, and Mayank, injures himself in the tests. I mean, the nets. So he's out of the picture, and then KL comes in and has an okayish first hit, but the second one at Lodge he scores 100. And today we are talking him to be, speaking about him to be the next Indian captain. So that pretty much, kind of defines the um, okay, the rise, okay, definitely yes, but also for a fact that how he's absolutely uh, inconsistent with the bat, and how also his captaincy skills, be it in the IPL or even in the second test, were not necessarily appreciated by a lot of pundits. Um, I was a very strong propagator, or probably a supporter of Shreyas Iyer as as a captain for the, even, if it's possible, if not for the 2023 World Cup, maybe subsequently, right? He definitely has that ability to captain, but he's just 2 tests old. Okay, his debut was long. Pushed, and he's just played one at Kanpur and another in Mumbai. He's just 2 tests old, and we can't just get in someone on those lines. So, and lastly, you know, as much as I'm a fan of the Rishabh Pant, the captain, sorry, the Rishabh Pant, the player, as a captain, right? I personally don't think he has that ability to, at least as of now, to lead a test team. Okay, with nor I'm not very keen or probably excited with him reading the game as well, because his DRS calls are also pretty horrendous to start with. And his IPL captaincy also need not be amazingly appreciated, because even under Shreyas Iyer, they've reached the final. Uh, they've reached the semis in this one, the recent edition as well, and there has been some amount of criticism with respect to his ability to captain as well. So I was giving it a long thought, and I truly agree with Ravi Ashwin when he penned the word "it's an headache," right? He probably meant it in a very positive sense, with respect to how the legacy that Virat is leaving is so probably irreplaceable. But I personally think that, with respect to succession planning, a very smooth transition, right? BCCI as a whole has failed, because we've been constantly ensuring that there are good amount of batsmen who are probably in their mid 30s, who are not necessarily doing enough with the bat but have still continued, and the young ones have not necessarily gotten their the place that they probably should have received much earlier. So again, there's no specific solution to it, but what I personally think should necessarily happen is, there's no other better way to put this, but as much as I hate this, we should look at Rohit Sharma as the test captain as well for at least a year, but constantly groom someone like a Shreyas Iyer as the next test captain. And of course, we'll definitely see KL Rahul as well as the opener in the team to start with. It's mostly curtains for Ajinkya Rahane, so Shreyas Iyer should just walk into the team, is what I personally feel. And Pujara's question also will be answered soon, and then a guy like Hanuma Vihari also will be looked into closely. But at this point in time, with the home tests, I'm not really concerned. But the one single England test that we're going to play, the fifth test, right? It's very critical for us to level it, if not win it. And I personally think with Virat in the team, Rohit Sharma will be an able captain, but not beyond 2022 or 2023 for sure. This World Test Championship cycle, I'm not very positive of us making it to the finals. But having said that, irrespective of anything, the new World Test Championship cycle should 100% have a new Test captain who's in his 20s, be it not necessarily KL, who will be 31 by then, but we should look beyond KL and then look at probably someone like Shreyas Iyer or Rishabh Pant for sure. But so I'm equally confused as well. It's truly a headache. So what do you think, Pawan Bhai? I think mine was more of a rant than an opinion, but I still think I kind of compartmentalized my thoughts and at least try to communicate something. So what's your view on that?
They're very well put, Ravi. Of course, everybody has their own opinions, and um, I think all of this will be disregarded, and the ball will fall in the BCCI's court. And I pretty much know, knowing the BCCI's history, which way they'll be going. But having said that, they have only two options in front of them: long term versus the short term. And the short term option is pretty straightforward. Appoint Rohit Sharma as the captain and have a young captain under him who will be the vice captain, and groom him to take over the test team after a couple of years. Because, like you mentioned, Rohit is 35 and has been having a lot of challenge with his fitness levels over the last couple of years, especially. But the counter argument to that would be, what is the use of appointing him as the captain? And at this point of time, when you know that it's going to only be for this cycle of the World Test Championship mainly, and why not let him put all his energies and concentrate on the upcoming T20 World Cup in Australia and the 2023 World Cup in India, and not let him burden with the Test captaincy as well. That is a counter view to that. Or the long term option is take the punt and appoint a young captain and throw him at the deep end of the pool, just like you did with MS Dhoni, uh, who was appointed the skipper for the T20 side when he had not even captained a single white ball or a red ball game for Jharkhand in the domestic scene, you know. And of course, he was the understudy to Anil Kumble for that 1 year and a bit because they felt that that point of time he was not ready for Test cricket. But it was only for 1 year, and after Anil Kumble retired, he took on the mantle of the Test captaincy and was pretty successful in the first half of his captaincy stint as well. And when you look at the long-term options, either you have KL Rahul or Rishabh Pant, like you mentioned, Shreyas Iyer. He definitely has leadership credentials, but I think at this point of time, the selectors might look to him cementing his spot in the team rather than burdening him with captaincy. So long-term options are KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant. And KL Rahul, like you mentioned, 6 months ago was not even in the scheme of the Test side, and it's a great testament to him that he grabbed the opportunities with both his hands in England and has now become one of the mainstays in the team. But how consistent he remains, and he also does not exuberate positive body language when put under pressure, and that was pretty evident in the IPL in the last couple of seasons, where the Kings 11 side lost many games that they should have won from those positions. And also he was pretty jittery and nervous at that match in Joburg. Although I don't like to judge a player or their captaincy on the basis of one match. Then we have Rishabh Pant, a guy who was handed the captaincy of the Delhi Ranji team at a pretty young age, the age of 2021, I believe. And then he was captain Delhi J Devils as well. Uh, yes, he also pretty inexperienced and will learn on the job. And some might say that with the kind of attitude he represents at the crease while batting, whether he would be the right man for the job. But who knows? Some people like to take on that responsibility, and you see a sea change in their attitude as well and taking up more responsibility. Of course, by not curbing his natural instincts altogether. And again, I would draw a similar, reference to MS Dhoni, who was a swashbuckling and a very aggressive player prior to his captaincy. And look what kind of player he became after captaincy, a much more sober player a much more tactical player, a great finisher, one who would understand and read the situation of the game and play according to that. And I'm pretty clear in my view personally. If I'm given the choice, I will go ahead and appoint a long-term solution, and I'll appoint somebody like a Rishabh Pant as the captain, and he'll have good sounding boards in Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma in the test team, just like how South Africa invested in a young Graham Smith. That side had the likes of Pollock, Callis, Boucher, Antini, Herschel Gibbs, Nicky Boye, all these people who were much more senior to Graham Smith, but they took the punt on him, and we all know the result of that was all those years down the line. And it's also not necessary that whoever is the designated vice captain should be given the reins, although that should be in majority of the cases. A classic case is, Australia. Which was one of the most successful captains they had, and for all the while that he was captain, Adam Gilchrist was his deputy. But when the time came to appoint the next captain, they went ahead and appointed Ricky Ponte and not Adam Gilchrist. So it's about identifying and having that hunch. But knowing the BCCI, like I mentioned earlier, they will not do that. They will play the safe uh, game, go ahead and appoint Rohit Sharma as the test captain, and I see them appointing K. Rahul as the vice captain in the test matches as well. But if I had my way, I will definitely have Rishabh Pant take over the leadership credentials in there. Uh, and Ajinkya Rahane might be doing his luck, because if he was in half decent form, there would be no such questions asked, and he would have been the next full-time test skipper at least till the end of the next WTC cycle. So I think it's high time that India move on from Rahane and Pujara. All the both are 33. And to be fair to them, they will also know deep down that they have been given enough chances to prove themselves, and it's not like they have been dropped after one odd bad series. But it's time to give the youngsters like Shreyas Iyer, Anwar Vihari a good go in the test team. So that's what I feel. My choice is Rishabh Pant, but we all know which way the BPK is going to go to. So that's with respect to the succession plan in Test cricket. And before we wrap up the episode, Ravi, your top three moments from Virat Kohli's stint as a Test captain, and a couple of low points during his Test period as well, and then I will put mine forward as well before we wrap up this episode. Please go ahead.
Cert- yeah, certainly, yes. Of course, I'm a huge fan to start with of his first test at Adelaide, how he has played there, and the intent that he has showed. Of course, we didn't necessarily win the test, and that necessarily didn't end up in our favor. But having said that, that pretty much unleashed or probably showcased the captain and what's actually in store for us in the coming few years to start with. Also, for a fact, his double century of around 240, 240, 241 against South Africa. That is one of my favorite innings, wherein he's played really well. The pink ball test as well against Bangladesh, wherein he scored 100 at Eden Gardens. I think that was one, very good innings again. Of course, we can still talk about how it had no Shakib, but having said that, uh, there were glimpses of some glorious batting out there. Uh, a lot of the 100 he's got in 2014 against Australia in Australia, and also the Birmingham 100, if I'm not wrong, it was some 153 odd at Baston. uh, Terrific innings. And to lastly end it right, I think my favorite moment of Virat Kohli the captain was definitely the Lord's test win, wherein we pretty much defended a very small total after some good amount of tail end batting. Of course, Virat was not at the best of his form in terms of at least the batting numbers he has amassed. But I vividly remember that point wherein the team was in a huddle, and he just, they know for a fact that there is a damn camera or a mic, hovering here and there. But he still goes there and say that, okay, we're going to show them bloody hell. And yes, we did show them bloody hell. And of course, Siraj's four for, and it just can't be forgotten. The Lord's Test victory is sweeter than the one we achieved in 2014. Of course, not to draw comparisons, but I think it was done and over. But the Virat, the leader, is due credit to him for that game. So a lot of memories, but I can't just put three or four, but I thought I listed about 7 to 8. But having said that, that's my thought. And what's yours, Baya?
Yeah, a lot of good moments look, back during his Test captaincy tenure. We had more highs than lows. Top three, in my view, would be the top one would be the 2018-2019 series win in Australia. First time that an Indian side or an Asian side went and won a series over there. You know, people may say whatever they want to that Smith and Warner were not there, but many other Test teams would have struggled to beat that Australian team without Smith or Warner in Australia. But many people conveniently forget that Australia still had their full strong bowling attack in that series. So that would definitely be the top moment. Cannot say about the 2021 Test series victory against Australia because he was just the captain in that first Test match. And there were 36 all out and then we flew back. The topmost moment definitely the 2018-19 series win against Australia. Second one, I would also echo with you on that Lord's Test win. One of the best Test wins I've seen overseas. Coming into the final day, India were just 150 ahead and 6 wickets down, and then Shami and Bumrah had that fantastic partnership and set up a target of 272. And still, the odds were on a draw, where England had to bat just 60 overs, and we bowled them out. And the kind of aggression that rubbed on from Virat Kohli to the rest of the team for those 60 overs was something commendable. Even now, every now and then, I just go and watch the final day highlights on YouTube and get goosebumps. Fantastic victory. And another victory that I would say that came at home. Always we take for granted that we are unbeatable at home, and it's been a fantastic record that we have held at home, and we've had a proud record continued during the Kohli's captaincy tenure. That would be the 2017 Test match at Bangalore between Australia and India. We lost the first Test match on a horrible pitch where Steve O'Keefe took a six for in both the innings. Never think he'll achieve that in his rest of his life, even in Shield cricket. And then in Bangalore as well, Australia dominated the first four Test matches, and we were thinking, there you go, Australia would go 2-0 up. And on the final day, uh, on the fourth day, we had a great partnership between Pujara and Rahane, and that kept us in the hunt. And on the final day, Australia would still had fancied their chances by chasing a target of close to 180, and we then shoved them off with our spinners, Messrs. Jadeja and Ashwin, and again, the kind of energy and passion that Virat Kohli showed on that last day rubbed onto the team, and we achieved a great victory, and that led to a series victory as well. So these would be my top three moments. And a couple of lows I would say that would rankle Virat Kohli, the captain, would be the inability to win the series in England. Although we are leading a series right now, hopefully we win that. A 4-1 loss in 2018 in England, where it was a much more closer series than the scoreline suggests, and our inability to bowl out the tail at that point of time, and a certain Sam Curran playing out of his skin and make sure that England won that series. And the two series losses in South Africa in 2017 and 18 also, I think we had a good chance in spite of AB, Rap, and all these people being there. And of course now the most recent series, which was our best chance in many years. So these three, series, two in South Africa and one in England in 2018, I think were the lows during his captaincy career, all in all. So lucky enough to have him as our test skipper, and I think Indian cricket has progressed really well. Azharuddin won 14 test matches during his career. Ganguly then bettered him with 21 wins. Dhoni then bettered Ganguly with 27 wins, and now Virat Kohli has taken it to the next level with 40 wins. And whoever comes in has a very tough task to, you know, carry on in the same vein and make sure that India are a force to reckon with in Test cricket. So all in all, a great tenure, and we salute the captain King Kohli for all he has done for Indian cricket and for Test cricket and the health of Test cricket in general on the whole in the world.
Absolutely, Pound Bear. I totally agreed. Actually, for a fact, I watched that game day three. It was a Sunday, and I watched it live in Bangalore. Amazing test. Of course, I had to come back to Hyderabad the next day because of work-related commitments, and I didn't watch India winning it. But having said that, amazing memories at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, wherein the crowd rooted for Jadeja to be bought into ball, and then Virat does that, and Jadu just picks in wicket right there. So yes, some amazing moments. Of course, I will definitely miss the captain Kohli. Of course, we have him as a player for sure. But the true torchbearer of Test cricket, at least with respect to when it came to India, right, we'll definitely miss his, uh, you know, uh, aggression, love, passion, pride, everything. Having said that, I don't think he'll be not giving any less than 120% on the field for sure, if not with the changes and tactical moves and whatnot. But having said that, his commitment can't be questioned, his integrity uh, can never be questioned again as well. So, of course, interesting days ahead. I think that's pretty much my views. Any final thoughts?
I think that's it, Ravi. I hope that we get to see the best of Virat Kohli, the player, in whatever time he has got remaining in international game, and that is only going to help the Indian team, and also the youngsters can feed off him in in whatever time he has left with the Indian team, because they'll get to learn a lot from him with respect to how to carry themselves on the field and maintain those high fitness level levels as well. So I hope that we proves to be a great sounding board for all the youngsters that keep coming into the Indian team in the next few years.
Certainly. Yes. So, yeah, that's about it from our side, guys. Have a nice time. Of course, see you soon again. We'll come back with more episodes on that. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. Take care.